Good morning. I am at Yudalsan Park and I am currently standing at Yudalsan Pavilion, which is at the very tip top of this mountain. And the view from here is absolutely amazing. I don't know if you could hear it or not, but there's actually two helicopters flying in a circle pattern around this mountain, and I have no idea why. I was going to take up the drone, but because they're actually patrolling and they're so close, I don't know if I'll actually do that. But the views from up here are amazing. You see the entirety of the bay or the ocean or the sea or the inlet, whatever you call it. And originally this was built in 1932 for foreigners to kind of get a good glimpse of the city, Mokpo. But it was actually torn down and reconstructed to look a little nicer, I guess. Everything's like nice cement and everything. I don't know if this is what the original looked like, but that's what they said. They reconstructed it in the late 70s. I think it said 78. And it is a pretty fantastic looking structure, and it has free binoculars that you could use to see down below, which is pretty awesome. And just this view, it's like $1 million view. This is like where you'd think someone would set up a house and have like a ginormous window, kind of like that house in Parasite that had the ginormous window to the backyard. This is such an amazing view, and you know, it is a working port city, so you could definitely see the working man's like living down there. And then on the way up, it was actually quite interesting. There's quite a few stops, and people are actually starting to meet up here now. Let me go down one flight of stairs to the next area, and I'll continue talking there. I'll be back in just a moment. Oh yeah, a big group of like almost 10 people, 10 men, grandpas really, have met up at that little pavilion place. I think they're like some sort of hiking group. They're probably gonna hike up to the mountain that's about a little over 300 meters in the opposite direction of where I'm going. I'm going back to the car now to try to get to the next spot. I'm gonna try to go get onto the cable car rides while the weather's still nice. But as I walk down, I'm going to the second cannon that I passed on the way up, and it's the Opode Noon Cannon. And this is kind of interesting because they don't do it anymore. They actually stopped in the 80s, but they took a British idea, and that was the noon cannon firing, the signaling of noon. And you know, I've never actually looked into why they did it. I actually saw it in Hong Kong, and I believe in London. London was many years ago. Oh my god, I would think that it's like, it was in the 2000s when I saw it in London. What's funny is, this noon cannon's not actually the original. The original is in a museum. They made a replica of it and then put it up here to show where they used to fire the noon cannon, or at least one of the two. In itself, this platform right here that I'm on right now, the cannon's right in front of me, has a great view. So it's nothing to be scoffed at. And it's funny because the pavilion's just maybe, I don't think you can see it through the thick brush, but it's right beyond this like tree right here. And so this platform that I'm on with the noon cannon here has one really interesting billboard, I guess, or information board, is that they put where all the other midday cannons that they know of are at, including, let's see, there's Halifax, Cape Town, Republic of Malta, the Guernsey, I have no idea where that is, Edinburgh, and Hong Kong. And the Hong Kong one's the last one I actually saw fired. They don't actually shoot this one anymore. They actually stopped shooting this back in the 80s, like I said before. And it's funny because it says that, I think they give the actual time that it was, gunpowder. There was never a shell put inside. It was only gunpowder. Yeah, so looks like when they stopped in the 80s, there are actually people who kind of miss it, because that was a part of their childhood, and they would hear this cannon go off every day at midday. And turning the wrong way. This cannon right here go off midday, and it was just one of those things where they kind of got used to it. Oh, and one thing I did forget to mention when I was at the pavilion just now is that if you turn around and instead of looking at the great view that's in front of me, if you turn around, you can actually see the cable car that I'm going to be riding. It actually goes through a midpoint center right there. I don't know how this is not the longest cable car in all of Korea. Like, it spans over 2 islands and then up a mountain. I guess that's the one in Cheongsong also did. It went over 2 islands and up a mountain, but that was over like a river or a lake. This is like literally over the ocean, so that's pretty crazy. But I digress. Obviously, I'm on Yudalsan now, so yeah, this is quite interesting. There's actually one more platform I think I'm gonna talk about before I get back to the car. Hopefully I don't get charged too much for parking. I was an idiot, and instead of just walking from my hotel here, which would have been free parking, I actually drove thinking that this was a lot further, and then I have to pay for parking. So I guess it is what it is. I'll be back in just a moment. Alright, and I am at the final platform that I feel that I should talk about here. But before I actually do that, I just want to mention that at the cannons just now, there's no one around. At the cannons just now, or the cannon, the next cannon is actually in front of me right here. But at the cannons, both of them were actually removed by the Japanese during the Second World War. It's kind of interesting, I have to say, about learning Korean history. Sometimes they really differentiate which invasion the Japanese did here, and other times they didn't. When they were talking about the invasion at first, I was thinking the Imjin, I believe that's what they called invasion, which is like through the 1500s, if I recall correctly. But I mean, it happened multiple times, the invasion that is. But this happened, okay, people are coming, of course. This happened in 1909 was when they started putting the cannons and firing them for the noon call. But the one thing, or I'm sorry, not for the noon call, but as a defense. And what they noticed was that the cannons were out of date. Everyone else at that time were using, I want to say like reciprocating cannons, or cannons that didn't move when you fired them. They weren't like the Pirates of the Caribbean pirate ships where you see the cannon shoot and then it would like go back 6-7 feet, you know, physics, right? These cannons were designed to do that. And because they were created at that time, they're a Korean invention, they actually ended up going to the Japanese and buying the Japanese cannons. I don't know, again, I don't know what they're called, but these are the ones that like when you fire it, it might move like 6 inches or like a foot. You know, it barely moved. So you could fire it, reload it real quick. And the thing was, they didn't know what to do with these other cannons, which is why they turned them into the noon firing cannons. Because they were just too antiquated at the time. They were like a war behind, so to say. And so that is one of the reasons why they turned them into the noonday cannons. And I think that was really interesting. But when Japan invaded, they actually saw those cannons, said, yeah, no, I don't care what you use them for because you could turn them into a weapon. And they actually confiscated them. And so I should also mention the placements of these cannons are not the original placements. The one up top might actually be, but the one that's right in front of me right now, that actually used to be in the middle of town. Kind of like how Hong Kong's noonday cannon is right at Victoria Harbor, I think it was. Like, it's right in that area near Happy Valley, if I recall correctly. So, yeah, just interesting, you know, tidbit of history there. But now to the reason you probably hear like this like weird music in the background. It's called trot, by the way. I found out there's an actual name for it. The music is the style of trot, T-R-O-T. And it's still super popular here in Korea. But the reason you hear this is because this is the Mokpo cultural like heritage item number 27. The song is by Lee Nan-young, and it's actually something that she wrote in dissidence to the fact that the Japanese were occupying this place in 1935. The lyrics kind of have a double meaning, so they're mostly puns, I guess you could say. The song is called Tears of Mokpo, and this monument right here was created in '69 in memorandum of Lee Nan-young. And the lyrics, like I said, have this double meaning behind them. And the whole reason was to get around Japanese censorship. So it was like a source of pride for the people here in Mokpo to be able to play this song out loud, and even with the Japanese people like around, and they wouldn't know that it was actually something that was kind of making fun of them and kind of anti-Japanese. So pretty interesting, you know, neat little tidbit of history. Also an interesting place to put it on top of a mountain. But and hello, quick cut in from way in the future, Charlie. Apparently, this is where I lost the rest of the DJI footage. I do know that during this trip is when my DJI camera broke, so that is unfortunate. I have no idea what I said or did exactly after this, but I do remember the fact that I did come down the mountain, and parking was not that expensive, so it was alright. And moreover, editing this video, I never saw myself talking about the fact that there is a huge statue at the base of the mountain when you're going up. And that statue is of Admiral Yi, the famous Korean admiral that tricked the Japanese into coming into a like whirlpool area, or a highly turbulent, or I don't know what you call it when it's just rough seas, to where the Japanese couldn't control their boats, and the little turtle boats that the Koreans had were able to outmaneuver and really defeat a army or a navy that was much larger than his. And they have statues of him all over the place, but I believe this is where the battle actually happened, in Mokpo, or off the shores of Mokpo. I could be wrong, but that's probably why they have a statue of him overlooking where all the cannons and everything are. But other than that, Yudalsan's a great free little area. I'm sure that it's much nicer now, being that it's been a few years. But yeah, we'll go ahead and end it here, and I will see you in the next video.